I was not one for tears or tangled youth. My life was shaped by discipline and truth. With lineage steeped in art and land and lore, I moved through halls where lesser hearts would awe. Men tipped their hats, and mothers watched their sons, but none could match the measure of my runs. I'd hunted foxes, crossed the channel twice, debated in salons as cold as ice. I'd seen the world and chosen to remain unwed, unbowed, immune to charm's domain. Yet even steel will yield to something kind, and when he spoke, he seemed a rarer mind. No wealth he brought, nor titles to impress, just steady eyes and modest gentleness. We wed, beneath the elms of Highmore Park. The day was fine, the air both cool and stark. The guests wore hats like blossoms, bold and bright. The wine was deep, the speeches long and light. I wore a gown of heirloom Belgian lace, and held the calm of centuries in place. They said I glowed, and perhaps I truly did, for joy, when rare, knows not how to stay hid. We bought a home with land and ivy walls, and filled its rooms with paintings, books, and calls of children, born to legacy and ease, their lives untouched by war or debts to please. And though he came from humbler, quieter dust, I thought in love, pedigree bows to trust. And so, I let him in, my guarded gate, unknowing I'd invited in my fate. At first, the signs were subtle, hardly wrong, a laziness that lingered late and long. He stopped inquiring, ceased to meet my gaze, and filled his days with sleep and spiteful praise. He'd preen before the mirror with a grin, yet shrink from every challenge deep within. My counsel, once a source of his delight, was met with smirks or silence edged with spite. He mocked the circles where I held command, resented every jewel upon my hand. His words grew loud where thought had once held sway. A king in title, paper-throned and grey, and I, who once inspired awe and dread, was spoken to as if I'd lost my head. Not love, but comfort, dulled his clever tongue, and I, a songbird clipped and left unsung. I had not wed for need, nor lust, nor name. My coffer's full, my honour free of shame. I chose him not for status, nor for show, but for the quiet grace I thought he'd grow. For once, I longed to set my armour down, to share, not rule, to rest, not wear the crown. I let him see the rooms I kept well locked, the fears that even wealth had never rocked. He touched my wrist and called me Lionheart, and I believed he meant to play his part. Yet comfort bred contempt in steady dose, a man who'd rather boast than be morose. He played the part of prince, but dropped the mask when faced with any real or trying task. The lie was not that he had dared to dream, but that he shrank when given rein and scheme. And I, who'd offered more than men had earned, was left with ash from bridges never burned. I did not rage. I am not built for wails. My scorn, when stirred, arrives in measured scales. The art of distance is a noble skill. I dressed in silk and simply went more still. He'd prattle on, of stocks, of schemes, of self, while I arranged the books upon the shelf. The children thrived, the gardens did not wilt, the help were paid, the linens pressed. The guilt was his alone, though he could scarcely see that silence was the price for losing me. At dinners, I would listen, nod, and pour, a hostess hosting ghosts she'd known before. He'd miss my sighs, mistake them for the breeze, and never asked why I had ceased to tease. He thought me cold, a flaw he liked to name, yet never guessed who taught me to be flame. So I became the echo of a wife, and he, the audience of his own life. I learned to hold the silence as my throne, a sovereign in a kingdom overgrown. No longer bound to him by whispered lies, I turned my gaze to vast, uncharted skies. The children's laughter wove a fragile thread, a tether strong enough to keep me led. The nights were long, but never void or bare, for in the dark I found myself aware. No rescue came, no herald or bright sword, just steady steps upon a lonely road. I wore my scars like jewels, forged by fire, a quiet reign built from resolve and ire. And though the world might see a fallen queen, I rule a realm no other soul has seen, where solitude is grace, and grace is power, and every dawn is mine, my quiet hour. I learned to hold the silence as my throne, a sovereign in a kingdom overgrown. No longer bound to him by whispered lies, I turn my gaze to vast, uncharted skies. The children's laughter wove a fragile thread, a tether strong enough to keep me led. The nights were long, but never void or bare. For in the dark, I found myself aware. No rescue came, no herald or bright sword, just steady steps upon a lonely road. I wore my scars like jewels, forged by fire, a quiet reign built from resolve and ire. And though the world might see a fallen queen, I rule a realm no other soul has seen, where solitude is grace, and grace is power, and every dawn is mine, my quiet hour.